Hey guys, welcome back to another League of Legends video. Season 11 is starting and everyone over at ProGuides is excited about placements. But the ranked season is more than just your first 10 games, so we're here to give you 7 tips and tricks for climbing in the early season. One thing I do want you guys to know about is that we're doing a giveaway. We've got Riot points, coaching, ProGuides points, ProGuides subscriptions, and more. All you have to do to participate is subscribe, join our Discord using the link in the description, and check out our giveaway tab. Now, let's start the video. Let's start out with one of the most important tips for getting those wins in the first meta of the season. No matter what kind of champions are strong, early game picks and strategies are some of the best ways to secure a win. Season 11 has some of the fastest average game times, so let's talk about some of the things you can do to grab that early game lead. No matter what team comp you're playing, you can take advantage of invading before minions spawn in some way. There's a lot of different goals with early game invades, including placing early vision, looking for kills, starting jungle camps, or all of the above. Before we talk about the specifics, we need to let you know about our discounted prices over at ProGuides.com. From the 8th until the 14th, you can use the link in the description to get a 20% discount off of a ProGuides subscription. Our subs come with everything you need to get your rank quickly, so don't miss out on this limited offer. Okay, so let's get back to talking about the early game in League. When you're invading, one of the easiest goals to accomplish is to get a ward or two in the enemy jungle. This early vision goes a long way, helping everyone on your team find the enemy jungler and know what he's thinking. If you're able to, a ward in the brush near raptors or the area between blue buff and wolves will give you a bunch of information. Do your best to watch these wards, and when you see something, ping them on your map. Remember, you can place wards during any type of invade, so look to put one down every time you invade. If possible, try and communicate beforehand who is going to put the ward down. The last thing you want is to accidentally place 3 wards in a single bush. When deciding whether or not you want to get in a fight with the enemy team, you need to compare both of your level 1s first. Some good examples of strong early game champions are Braum, Thresh, Pantheon, Ashe, and Anivia. All of these champions have reliable crowd control and damage, giving them a huge advantage against someone like Malzahar. We can't go over every champion, but CC and area of effect damage are the 2 major factors in a level 1 fight. If your team is weaker level 1, you can still counter an invade by stacking in a bush. When you see a Blitzcrank, you should always expect some sort of early game invade to happen. Ping your team and ask them to stack as 5 in one of the brushes close to your buff. If you get the jump on them, you'll have more than enough damage to kill one champion. Make sure you ping the target that you're focusing down so that your team doesn't start randomly hitting other champions. Before we move on with the rest of our tips, our question of the day is, what's your plan for playing your placement games this season? Are you an early morning grinder, or do you space out your matches every day? Let us know in the comments down below. Going back to our early season tricks, duo queuing is one of the best ways to climb, and for good reason. A duo is someone who you can trust. Someone who won't let you down when it counts. Everyone has bad games, but a duo makes winning games easier and losing games a little less frustrating. If you already have someone that you've played with for a while, have a handful of duo strategies for winning the game. You can get really creative with this, and the roles that both of you play will decide how you can carry the game. Let's talk about some of the most common roles for a duo and how you can win games from there. When most people think of duo, they think of the bot lane and the ADC support combo. An experienced bot lane pair can completely outplay 2 strangers. I think it's no surprise to say that a gold duo can beat a solo queue bot lane. For Season 11, make sure that you both make your champion pools work well together. If the ADC player likes to choose aggressive early game champions, the support should try to play at least one early game support. Being able to adapt to the champion select and counter pick the enemy bot lane will make it much easier to transition your lead across the rest of the map. Another popular duo is the mid-jungle combo, taking over the map with roams and invades. This 2v2 matchup is really important, especially over scuttle crabs and early invades. If you're both on the same page, it'll make those close fights go in your favor. Being able to communicate your cooldowns and crowd control is crucial to becoming a good duo, so practice together and get those early season wins. Our next tip is to play unpredictably. We're not really talking about your champion picks, and picking Evelynn for the first time is probably going to do more harm than good. Predictability changes depending on what rank you're playing at, so let's break down how to surprise your opponents and win some games. If we're not talking about champion picks or runes, what does it mean to be unpredictable? Let's go through a scenario so we can pinpoint where your options begin. You're playing Malphite in the top lane, and everyone is pretty much even in the game. You've hit level 6, and both you and the enemy top recall. The predictable play is to walk back to your lane and continue farming, waiting until something happens somewhere else so that you can TP and join the fight. Players in Diamond and below would never expect you to walk to mid lane and ulti there instead, winning the lane for your mid and hardly losing anything in the top lane. When I'm telling you to play unpredictably, I'm talking about making small sacrifices in order to do some risky plays that could end up winning you the game. Even if you lose 2 waves, the impact you have on the game is worth it by getting your mid laner ahead. Plus, you'll probably tilt everyone on the enemy team. Make sure you don't go for too many random plays. If you just walk around the map and do whatever you like, it'll start to get obvious. Honestly, one good play and you're already in the head of your opponent. If I see someone flash hook his blitz, I'm always expecting them to do it again when they can. This gives you extra pressure in the game, showing that you can do something, but that you don't need to do it. Remember how we talked about not first timing Evelynn? I want to remind you that playing what you practice is a key factor in how many games you'll win this ranked season. There's no player who climbs by playing champions randomly, even if they're trying their best to adapt to the meta. The truth is that sticking to your comfort picks in champion pool is crucial, especially during the early season. If you want to make some changes to your comfort picks, there's no shame in slowing down the ranked grind to practice a new champion in some normal games. Otherwise, always pick according to your champion pool. Take a look at some of the videos on our channel to figure out what the strongest picks in Season 11 are, and try to incorporate them into your champion pool. As a rule of thumb, you don't need to play every S-tier champion in order to climb the ranks. For example, just because Kai'Sa is an S-tier ADC doesn't mean that you should pick her up. If you main Vayne, you already have a champion that fills the late game tank shredding role. When getting comfortable with new champions in the early season, try your best to fill as many gaps in your pool as possible. We still recommend that you stick with 2 to 3 champions in your main role, so don't overload yourself with new picks. Use that energy and skill on your ranked games instead. Speaking of champion pools, filling in the gaps for your team in Champion Select is a great way to secure some wins in the early season. Everyone is going to be spamming their best picks, and designing your champion pool to be flexible really pays off here. But being adaptable and flexing for your team goes further than picking a tank if your team needs one. Every single champion can be played in multiple ways, and how well you change your playstyle on the fly will directly impact how many games you win. For example, let's say you're playing Annie. You're great at engaging fights, but you're also pretty good at peeling for your backline. As a middle line battle mage, the way that you play a fight can be totally different depending on the game. If your Jhin is super fed, don't force yourself to engage if you don't need to. Playing front to back and peeling for him will make winning the game a breeze. To win more games, try to figure out how to play your main champions differently. When you need to, learn how to engage fights. It's never too late to start learning about other roles in the game, and I don't mean the 5 roles you queue up for. Peelers, engagers, burst damage, consistent damage, all of these jobs are spread across so many champions. Try to think outside the box when you're in game. I've seen some crazy Lulu players flash into the enemy and ult themselves, and then Malphite ulting the team and winning the game. We talked about early game invades and strategies, but roaming and invading work at all points of the game. Our next tip is to abuse roams and take skirmishes with the enemy team, especially when it's unexpected. Early season is tough on everyone, and people get frustrated when they have to play a passive role in the game. This tip works extra well as a jungler or mid laner, but you can roam as anyone in the game. One of my favorite things to do in the early season is to non-stop gank one single lane, usually the one that will push into me. For example, Darius and Draven are easy to gank if they aren't totally stomping their lane. You'll slow down their early game power and help your team survive the pressure, making it easier to win the match. More importantly, roams and ganks always tilt your opponent, no matter how the gank went. No one likes to get focused, and playing on the weak side is annoying when you're trying to carry the game. If you're on the receiving end of these tower dives and ganks, keep a cool head and look around the map. Chances are that someone else on your team is getting a lot of resources, like turret plates or extra jungle camps. Speaking of keeping it cool, our final tip is to stay calm and have a strong mental game. The early season is intense, and everyone is trying to get back to their rank as soon as possible. Avoiding tilt will win you a lot more games. So let's talk about what you can do. If you just got done with getting stomped, don't sit there and think about it. Some games you win at 15, other games you're FFing at 20. That's how ranked works. But we know that it's frustrating, especially in the early season. I promise that taking a break after a tough loss will save you a lot of trouble. Even if it didn't bother you that much, try to wait at least a minute before you queue up again so you can avoid running into the same players. The last thing you want is the same 0 and 10 Yasuo from your previous match. If taking long breaks is out of the question, remember that you're playing for improvement and not your rank. When you're focused on your own gameplay, your rank will reflect that mindset. Even Faker goes on losing streaks. But the difference is that he doesn't think about the games that he could have won. Sometimes the enemy is just better, and you shouldn't take a loss as the worst thing that could happen. Our final tip for handling tilt goes back to finding a duo. It's just so much easier to ignore toxic teammates when you have someone you can laugh it off with. If you're looking for someone to play with, make sure to check out our community Discord in the description. Everyone's talking about Season 10, so join before all the good duos are taken. That'll wrap up our 7 tricks for climbing in the early season. Remember, ranked lasts for almost a whole year, so you'll have a long time to climb the ranks. We hope that some of our tips will give you an edge over the competition. So let us know in the comments how your placements go. Don't forget to answer our question of the day and take a look at our discounted subscriptions at ProGuides.com. Thanks so much for watching, stay safe, and best of luck on the Rift.